Hello, Tabletop Tim here. Your one and only source for probably bad news. There's no other, and never was. Thanks be to our patrons, Hedwig and Carlo. Goodbye for now.
Hello and welcome to the Probably Bad Podcast, a podcast which is definitely bad. I'm Pencil.
I'm Paper, and we have our first ever guest.
Hello!
Tal Minear, creator of Sidequesting.
Yes, that's me. Hi! I'm very excited to be here.
And today's Probably Bad RPG idea is World of Darkness campaign, where you never encounter anything supernatural. Sure, the vampire conspiracies and werewolf armies are out there, the GM reassures you, but this campaign is focused on the DMV.
So I feel like with the World of Darkness and those kind of horror urban fantasy settings in general, it's really easy to forget that there is a mundane world in it. It's really easy to forget that there are things other than vampires out there. And so you've got the whole idea of, include a bit of mundane stuff in your game. And I feel this is just taking that to its logical conclusion. It's only mundane stuff in your game. The supernatural keeps its excitement when it appears by just never appearing.
I mean, I do feel like things like vampirism would involve a lot of admin. Like, at a certain point, you need to establish a new identity, and that's just going to be a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, I think it depends on how you define supernatural. Like, what if your party's a bunch of vampires and you're all just at the DMV trying to get driver's license for your new identity? Like, is it supernatural if you are technically like a supernatural being, but never doing anything cool? Or what?
I do love the idea of your characters have recently been turned to a vampire, and the entire plot is just them dealing with the pragmatic everyday things of turning into a vampire, how do I arrange to only work at night with my boss and so forth. Absolutely no exciting things happen.
Especially if you're an older vampire, what if you were born before, NHS numbers or social security numbers? At some point, you're going to need to get one. You need a national insurance number to, get a job, and you need an income. So at some point, you're going to have to work out how to get one.
Maybe the whole campaign is you just trying to convince people good at forging documents to make you the new documents you need. Just bribery, threats.
Yeah, this is sort of getting into a crime RPG, which is just the standard heist RPG, but one person is a vampire. And you've got the muscle, you've got the stealth, you've got the hacker, you've got the vampire, and you've just got all the standard roles like that.
That could be really fun.
Yeah, actually, vampire heist does sound great.
Yeah, a heist where all the different roles are fulfilled by different supernatural creatures.
A vampire, a werewolf, a wizard, a fairy, and a ghost have to break into a bank.
In order to get the money to file the paperwork to get driver's licenses.
Yeah.
Yes.
They have to break into the DMV to steal the driver's licenses, which I'm 90% sure are just in a big box.
Well, make it harder. You're not stealing the licenses, you're stealing the equipment to make the licenses.
You're stealing the DMV.
Because, where do you get a laminator in this day and age?
Just steal the DMV. The entire building. Pick it up and walk away with it.
You take the DMV and push it somewhere else.
Since you like this plan, it doesn't actually solve your problem in any way. Because you still don't have a driver's license. What you have is just a building.
Who needs driver's license to have the DMV itself?
Now that the building's missing, though, you can really take your time breaking in.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you suggest I don't have a driver's license? If I didn't have a driver's license, how could I have the entire DMV in my backyard?
This is where driver's licenses are born.
Have as many driver's licenses as I like. I just keep pushing this button.
I feel like, though, the issue is even if you move the DMV somewhere else, people who are desperate to, get their own driver's license and whatever are going to find the location of the new DMV, and they're just going to go to you.
This is my second campaign, which is where you play a group of monster hunters who are trying to track down the vampires who stole the DMV so you too can get driving licenses.
But if they
Yes.
come to you to get the driver's licenses, you've then solved the issue of trying to get a job without ID by stealing the job.
You've stolen the job!
Monsters are coming here and stealing our jobs.
That's the vampire conspiracy. You become the vampire, and you steal the DMV, and then you have a DMV just allegedly run by vampires.
I like the
Who is you?
increasingly abstract and metaphorical heist. We're going to break into the rich guy's house and steal the memories of his childhood or something.
I mean, if you think about it, is identity theft itself not a kind of weird, ethereal crime? Like, it sounds like something Faye would do.
Especially
really
after they've
does.
stolen the DMV.
If you were Faye running the DMV, you could probably steal a lot of identities.
Yeah, you could get a lot of people's true names if you were just working at the DMV. That's also actually quite a good plot hook for a supernatural setting.
If your campaign is focused on the DMV, there might not be anything supernatural at first, but that lovely clerk may be hiding something.
Potentially legitimately intriguing campaign idea around a DMV.
It normally takes us a lot longer to get to a good campaign.
You're just too good at this for our humble podcast.
I just think the DMV is really fascinating as a concept because it's kind of an ethereal place. Like, you just go and you sit there for hours and you leave with maybe a driver's license if you had all the right paperwork.
You don't remember any of the time in between. You just sit down, and then when you leave, you have a driver's license and no memories of the last 4 hours.
Yeah, that's
I
how
mean,
it works.
The DMV is an intriguing concept to me just because we don't have that.
Yeah, I'm aware of it only through sitcoms, which is the best knowledge base for a long discussion on it, I feel.
Oh, yes.
I literally know it from The Simpsons.
And all I know is you queue there for a lot, and then someone takes your forms, and then you get given a driver's license. And also there's a fairy in there stealing your name.
Yep, basically.
I did it.
There's a lot of waiting in between things. You wait a bunch to get in, and you have someone check your forms to make sure you have the right forms. And then you do more waiting, and then you're brought up, and then they check your forms, and then you do more waiting, and you get the thing you need, and then you can go home.
So what you're saying is there are multiple opportunities for a vampire to take you aside for a quick chat about your forms and drink you dry.
Absolutely.
There was that sort of, what was it? It was a short horror story thing, which was can I have a few hours of your time? Yes, thank you. And then they put the phone down and you suddenly feel a few hours older. And I feel there's definitely something here of we're just going to slowly absorb your lifespan and you're just going to assume it's a normal response of being in the DMV. I think it's going back to the DMV is run by elves.
Yeah, it goes beyond being a liminal space to just being actual fairyland. You think you only queued for 3 hours, but you were there all day.
I just love the idea of Alice in Wonderland, but she goes down a rabbit hole and is just in line at the DMV. Just really anticlimactic, magical world travel.
Or like a Narnia thing, you go in, you queue for hours, you get your license, you come out, it's a minute later and you still don't have it.
That would be a nightmare.
Guardia but Aslan is just an asshole.
Aslan is one of the supernatural creatures that works in the DMV.
Can you imagine if there was just a lion behind the front desk?
I honestly don't know what my action would be if I went in to sort out some bureaucracy and there was just a lion there. Just give me form to the lion and he'll sort it out. He's Jesus.
I mean, the lion being Jesus would definitely throw me, but just a lion in general, I'm not sure. Because the problem is I work in museums, so I'm quite used to like going into a room and there's just like a stuffed fox making a vicious face stood on a desk.
This is why you're the one who's going to free the DMV from Aslan. But yeah, I think we've come to an actually like legitimate like idea. It's admittedly stopping Aslan from stealing your identity, but
I feel like
Yeah.
Aslan would be pretty good at identity theft.
yeah,
Anyone will tell a lion anything.
yeah.
This one can talk.
They're just inherently trustworthy creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I go to the zoo and whisper my darkest personal secrets to the lions and hope they don't betray me. There we go, podcast over.
I nodded along. But that didn't come up in audio, huh? I was wishing I had a local zoo to whisper my own secrets to the lions. There's an aquarium. I can tell my secrets to the jellyfish. But
Do they have lionfish?
they have catfish. It's kind of close.
Cats are just small lions. Like, so
Lions
yeah, I
are
think
just-
I think we've got to like a good like idea with this, which is to make this idea work. Go to a zoo and whisper things to the lions,
Mhm.
and
They'll
then
tell
your
you how
game will
to-
go well.
run your campaign.
Yeah, lions are famously nature's GMs.
That's why they're called the king of the jungle.
Yeah, which
They
is the
they
name of
just go in and they organize everything. They're very hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
Respond if like I just went out to the wilderness and there was just like a lion GMing things for the other animals, just turns and goes, "Excuse me, you're interrupting the game," and then just goes back to like GMing to a snake and a monkey.
I would apologize so fast. I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry to disturb you."
Yeah, I think
Back
I
to
don't think that's
session.
anything else. And then sorry, I didn't realize there was a game on. Leave.
What else are you gonna do?
Yeah, I think this
It's
is
just
probably
the social anxiety is just like, I don't care if it's a lion. I was rude. I must apologize.
Mhm.
I think this is probably the furthest we've got from the original idea, possibly over the entire podcast.
A new record.
Yeah. Should we go to some questions?
I think we should, but first, I should say that we have a Patreon, probably bad RPG ideas, with access to bonus episodes and homebrew, and a server where we play weird one-shots. I did it. I said it.
You did. We do have that.
So the first question is from Ask Jolly Roger. After making a suggestion to put the mouse folk in the bag of holding, temporarily for stealth purposes, I'm now haunted by the jokes following it. How do I get my party to stop? Wrong answers only. I love when people say wrong answers only like they don't know what podcast this is. Like, have we ever done a right answer?
I don't see anything wrong with the lion GM answer. Just put your party in the bag of holding. Problem solved.
Have you considered just making worse suggestions?
I have a bad idea for
Mhm.
for this. It's not good. What if you make something really terrible happen in regards to this bag of holding and the mouse folk, so that everyone is too traumatized to make jokes about it? I don't know what terrible thing this would be.
What if I put the bag of holding inside the mouse folk?
I mean, I feel like that is a very on-brand suggestion, Tal, because you're just suggesting give your party PTSD.
I mean, it's happened before. It's not a good idea. You probably shouldn't give your party PTSD in any form. but if you wanted,
Most
The
player
jokes.
characters come with trauma like pre-built in.
Mm.
But yeah, if you just take a bag of holding and take a what's it called, portable hole, and then put them both in the mouse folk, that should do it.
Have you considered, instead of putting the mouse folk in the bag of holding, put the person you're trying to sneak past in the bag of holding?
Yeah, they can't see you if they're in a bag of holding.
And then you can just tip them out somewhere else, and they'll be so disoriented that they won't remember that you snuck past.
Have you considered just throwing the mouse folk?
Yeet.
Like, what size is a mouse folk? Because it's not something I've encountered, and I'm just imagining like an actual mouse size.
I've been
But surely
imagining.
you could just put in a slingshot.
Yeah, I've just been imagining like Red Wall style tiny little people. 2 foot tall, apparently.
Okay, so maybe not a slingshot, but you could probably use like a mangonel or a trebuchet.
Ah, yes, the stealth trebuchet.
Well, what you do is you paint it in like splotches of green and yellow so it blends in.
So my reasoning is no one will notice I'm here because they're all busy going, "Oh my god, there's rocks smashing the building of from a trebuchet."
But one of the rocks is secretly a mouse folk who then climbs
Good
over the
word.
rubble.
Technically, all stealth missions of success if you level the building beforehand.
Or after.
Yeah.
You got options.
And you can also hide behind the trebuchet so they don't see your faces, and then it counts as stealth because they don't know it was you.
I'm looking for an intruder, but all I can see is this large, bright green trebuchet.
Cast
Just
invisibility on the bag of holding,
but not the mouse folk.
and then put the building in it.
How big is the opening to this bag of holding? Such that you can fit a building in it.
I mean, you may have to deconstruct the building first.
That's
that's where leveling it.
Yeah,
There we
use the
go.
stealth trebuchet to level the building, put the rubble in the bag. I don't know what this accomplishes. I just realised this doesn't benefit us in any way. We now just have a bag of rubble. But
I mean, people will stop talking about you wanting to put the mouse folk in the bag of holding, which I think was the original question.
Yeah, and I'm always talking about what are you doing?
Yeah, I guess if you just do something incredibly ridiculous to make jokes about, they'll make jokes about that.
Yeah, if you do something more embarrassing, then they'll stop talking about the previous embarrassing.
Well, yeah, it's like no one talks about O.J. Simpson, like, fumbling a catch.
It's true.
Lunching someone with the bag of holding.
I imagine it's quite easy to murder someone with a bag of holding.
Does the mass of a bag of holding... No, the mass of a bag of holding doesn't change when you put stuff in. So it would actually be quite difficult, I imagine.
See, I was thinking more the fact that, like, there's no air in there, or you could, like, you can keep all sorts of weapons in it. I think a bag of holding is a very useful murder weapon. Or at least accessory.
Murder accessory is what all the cool assassins are wearing.
You have to get a black one, though, just to fit the look.
So what we're saying is if we put the mouse folk in the bag of holding, even if it's temporary, they might die?
Yeah, there is no air in there. This is probably not going to go well for the mouse folk. But I don't think launching off.
I mean, they didn't say they were going to put them all the way in.
Oh, just a little bit? With, like, their face sticking out?
There's the little pocket friend.
Oh.
Actually, that's a fair point. Is this literally done just so you have a little mouse folk in your pocket?
That's so cute.
That's adorable. It's a shame we're going to have to put it in the stealth trebuchet and launch it at the building.
From Rocket. The druid I play often wild chips into a spider when stealthy reconnaissance is needed. But seeing as spiders can't talk, it's hard to communicate what they found without turning back to normal form and burning a use of wild shape. How do I best communicate with the other party members without leaving spider form? Have you read Charlotte's Web?
Charlotte's Web.
Well, you just make a web that incorporates the words you want to say in it. Like, just on the outside of the bad guy's hideout, just put up a spider web that says knives, and then they'll know they've got knives.
Or just make a little picture of a knife, even.
Yeah.
Art.
Spider Pictionary.
Spider Pictionary. Yes.
I mean, that is basically the plot of Charlotte's Web.
You are right, and you should say it.
I think my suggestion is just don't. Just be a wild, chaotic spider. No one knows what you're doing or why you're doing it. Like,
Is that not all
spider,
spiders?
And you're then small and can run away from the dangerous situation.
So your party can look at you as a spider, and if they see you running in the opposite direction, it can be like, maybe it is bad to go forward.
like partially transform into a spider, so you're like a giant spider with a human head.
That is terrifying.
Like an Animorphs cover.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Like, okay, so if going back to the stealth thing, I'm going to just use the word recon because we probably cut it out of all my attempts to say the word turned into Renaissance, which is not the word that was intended, but is the only word my brain can parse. But like, it will help with the recon if like all of you turn in like partially wild shapes, so they all look like animals covers, and then no one will look at you long enough to detect that you're in the building. They'll just see you, and their brain will be like, right, no, we're just blocking that one out, and they'll leave. This pairs really well with the stealth trebuchet.
Wild shape into a mouse, then hide in a bag.
Then get your trebuchet and profit.
Have you considered all the other players also turning?
Just a whole pack of spiders?
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
What if you learn Morse code and use your mandibles to tap out a message? It'll be really quiet, so you'll probably have to like climb onto someone's ear to do it. But you could do it.
I was assuming giant spider, but no, yeah, it's just a spider.
You
Yeah.
could take up interpretive spider dance.
Yeah, I was going to suggest interpretive dance.
Like bees. It's what bees do.
Yeah.
Yes! Spider waggle dance.
Like, you presumably... Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you presumably need to train your spider dance as a spider. So you just have to spend all your downtime turning into a spider and dancing, which I feel is like a nice way to
Good
spend
hobby.
your time. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
When
need
your
to build up
party-
your performance skill.
Yes. When your party needs like some extra money and you're in like a city, it can be like, look at our dancing spider and collect money that way.
That's a weird vibe to like getting money by having your druids turn into an animal to perform tricks. And I don't quite know what it is, but it's weird.
I mean, it's less cruel than a flea circus, a real actual thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just got,
And
like,
if Jurassic Park's anything to go by, if you make enough money from your spider dancing, you can then bring back dinosaurs.
That would help with your stealthy reconnaissance.
what?
Well,
It's
it's
dinosaurs.
something to do afterwards, or possibly instead.
We're going to launch a T-Rex at this building via trebuchet. We're stealthy. What? I rolled a natural 20 on my stealth check. Did they notice?
What is the stealthiest dinosaur?
Probably one of the little ones. Conforgus or whatever its name is.
Pterodactyl.
Yeah, I was thinking one of the flying ones, like a Quetzalcoatlus or something.
I was thinking Brontosaurus.
Explain.
People assume it's People assume it's part of the scenery because it's really big. They think it's a novelty building.
Do you just paint trees on it?
Yeah. It's like people look at it and go, is that a brontosaurus? No, we know if there is a brontosaurus. That's clearly just like that's what a supermarket looks like these days.
You have me convinced.
Yeah. We ride our stealth brontosaurus. It's like the opposite of microscopic. It's macroscopic. Like it's too big to see.
What if you just become a really big spider? I don't know if that helps in any form for communication. But
if you
well, it would be easier to hear the mandible Morse code, but it's also less stealthy.
If you become a big enough spider, they can just see your face move, and then you can just communicate with facial expressions. Full disclaimer, I don't know much about spider faces, but I assume they're just human faces, but on a spider.
See, now I'm imagining a spider doing mime.
Yeah, have you considered charades?
Like you stand up on the back forelegs and use the front forelegs to act out what the danger is.
Spider charades.
Yeah. It's dependent on the enemy's plan revolving around either a film, a book, or a TV show.
Well, you can compare it. Like if they're planning to steal some bearer bonds, you do Die Hard.
The spider can only communicate by comparing it to a different 80s action movie, and you have to figure out the details.
Only 80s ones, nothing from 1990.
That spiders didn't watch movies back at that time period. Again, now we've failed to answer your question in any way. Our final question is from Squishy. How do I get my 55-year-old mum to play D&D?
I'm gonna hang back on this one because that's my sister. Therefore, her mum is my mum, and I know how these suggestions get.
So I say eat her.
Eat the mother?
Yes.
Do not consume my mother.
This is mostly for I'm contractually obligated to suggest eating someone at least once an episode. So the issue is I don't know much about your mum.
Okay, basic facts about my mum.
I hope you're all enjoying this information, this part of our podcast.
She likes action films and heavy metal and is actually 56, if that makes a difference.
I'm going to have to throw out all of my 55-related ideas.
Yeah, just cross them off the list.
If she likes action films, has she considered this spider who charades Die Hard?
Yeah, you just need to introduce a spider right from the get-go that's a little bit bigger and really great at charades and is a action movie hero.
Yeah, in every scene, the spider gets a little bit bigger and a little bit more like John McClane.
So are you suggesting this is a helper NPC, or this is just my mum's character?
No, this isn't an NPC. This is just in the room as you play D&D.
Okay. Wait, it's not an NPC, but it's just in the room. It's just a spider that has somehow gained sentience and is part of the game now.
Yeah.
Part of the party.
Yeah, this could be your mum's PC. Other suggestions. Gunpoint. Bribery. How committed are you to your mum not being shot by your sister?
100%.
Okay, that's gonna hamper some of my plans.
What about asking nicely to sit down and play a game of D&D?
Yeah, actually, have you considered communication?
Is this on the table?
So I'm just gonna veto talking about it like mature adults. So let's get back to the spider-related plans. Bribe her with spiders.
I feel like that's not a good bribe. If someone bribed me with spiders, I would run away.
Yeah, I feel it's great because it works as either a bribe or a threat, depending on their initial reaction.
I honestly don't know how my mum feels about spiders.
Gonna find out, apparently.
Well, I've never had a problem with them, so I just took them outside myself.
I was the only person in my family who wasn't arachnophobic, and that's how this podcast got to this point.
It just escalates.
Yes. So other ways to threaten Paper's mother. Yeah, I feel like the problem is the actual answer is, ask her if she would like to play D&D. But that's not a particularly good punchline.
You
I feel all
could,
the
you could
other
tape like an action movie that she really likes and make that the plot of the
Yeah.
D&D game. Like, Thinly Veiled, we've also seen like people making Shrek their campaign and not telling the players, like something like that.
Yeah.
And so like once she starts playing, she'll be like, oh, this is very cool. And then you've got her.
Yeah. Invite around the actual Metallica to guest star.
Yeah.
I don't know many metal bands.
I also don't.
I know Metallica is a thing. Just have them show up. I'm sure they don't have anything best to do with their time because they're Metallica.
I mean, where can they really go right now?
Your mum's house.
I don't like the way you said that. She's a married woman.
Play her rock music, metal music, so she's in the RPG. I don't know what other connotations anyone could have had. Yeah, so as a child of the person who's being suggested to RPG, how well do you think these ideas would work on paper?
I mean, I feel like she'd be very impressed if either of her children had the clout to get Metallica to go to her house.
If we get a few more patrons on this.
Other than that, I think it might have to be the threat of spiders.
Very efficient threat.
Yeah. So there you go. To be fair, we did give an actual answer to that one. It was throw spiders at your mother, but was an actual answer to the question, as opposed to what if Aslan owed to DMV. So, yes, slightly more off-topicy thing. Tal, would you like to say something about your podcasty thing?
Yeah, I can do that. Do you want me to just hop right into it?
I think if we do so yes, let me just get back into saying things to people voice. And yeah, I think on that note, we should probably stop talking before we produce any more crimes against humanity and common decency.
And my mother.
And Paper's mother specifically. But before we get on to there was going to be a sentence there.
I believe in you.
How? It's 3 minutes before the podcast ends, and I've forgotten how to use English. But yes, so Paper introduced Tal I can't word it apparently.
So yeah, we're gonna wrap up there before. I don't know if my mum will hear my sister listening to this episode, but I doubt she'd approve.
Hello, Paper's mum.
Tal, do you want to explain what Sidequesting is before we wrap up?
Sure. Yeah, Sidequesting is a fantasy podcast about avoiding the main plot. It's It follows a character who will do anything as long as it's not fighting the big scary wizard. And I'm also forgetting how to words. Hey, that's great. Yeah, it follows a character who will do anything as long as it's not the main plot. So each episode is a side quest, and it's just like fun, low stakes, often fairly queer shenanigans. And it's my comfort show to make, and I like it a lot.
I do enjoy listening to it.
Yeah, it is a good show, I can confirm. Which is
Aw,
good.
thank
If I hated this, it would be very awkward at this point
I
of
mean-
the guest thing.
It's not like some people want like high stakes in their audio fiction shows. Not me, but
Like, it's just a very calm and comforting podcast. Awesome.
So yeah, if you have a question, you can send it to Probably Bad RPG Ideas on Tumblr, or you can email. Yes, I remember what our email is. What is our email?
probably
Yes,
badpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Scrolled up.
So listen to Sidequesting and remember to have a probably bad day.